episode of Bishulim at Home. Today we're gonna be cooking sufganiyot for Hanukkah. So as you can see, I have all my ingredients ready. My milk is lukewarm and I had melted my butter, okay? So once you have your ingredients, it's called mise en place, and this will help you get through the cooking in a much easier way without having to stop and measure and not thinking and making sure that you have everything set, okay? So the first thing that we need to do is we're gonna combine our milk with the yeast, and what it is a tablespoon of sugar. I'm just gonna eyeball it, so I'm gonna put a little bit, and using a fork we're gonna mix it. So you wanna mix it if you're whisking your eggs to the side, that way the yeast would integrate and dissolve with the milk, okay? We're gonna set it to the side, and we're gonna add the sugar to the flour, the lemon zest, the salt, and the eggs, okay? So I have 1 egg and 1 egg yolk, just to make it clear for everybody so there's no confusion. So now that I gave a few minutes my milk and my yeast to dissolve, I'm gonna pour them. Ideally at home, what you would like to do is measure your milk, measure your yeast, and add a tablespoon of sugar and get that going, and then you get to measure everything else. That way the yeast has more time to dissolve and be prepared for the integration. So we're gonna start mixing. I like to use just one hand. I'm gonna move all my, so I have space. And as you mix, you'll rotate the bowl. And then when you feel that it starts to get doughy, a little bit, but since there's still like big lumps, I'm gonna add the butter. And again, you continue mixing with one hand. You wanna get a sticky dough, but that it's foldable. And I always like to have on the counter ready to use a bowl with a little of extra flour in case you need to dust the counter, your hands, or add a little bit of flour to your dough. So you can see that by using just one hand, and I'm pressing down, right? I'm turning and pressing. I'm not going with my fingers and squishing it down. That will help. That what will do is it will make your hand more sticky, okay? The cleaner your hand would be, the less dough that it's gonna stick to it, okay? So you can always stop at any point and clean your hands. What you can do is just a very tiny piece of flour and then scrape your hands, get all the pieces out, and you continue mixing, okay? So once you have a nice dough, right, and you can see there's no lump, one just fell down, but like there's no lumps, there's nothing left in the bowl, we're gonna set it to the side. We'll bring it to the counter, and the dough is not really sticky. So what I'm going to do, one more time, I'm gonna clean my hands to make sure that my hands are clean and ready to start kneading the dough, and no dough will stick to my hand. Okay, and all these pieces you can easily add them to your dough, and you'll see now how they're gonna get integrated. Okay, so I go around, I grab them, pinch them together, put them on the top. So there's 3 steps into the kneading. The first one is called pull, fold, and turn. So I'm gonna pull my dough, and you want your dough to break, okay? You fold it on its own and you turn it. You pull, you fold, and you turn. And what you are doing right here is you are making sure that the ingredients are mixing well together and you are developing the gluten, right? So the more you do this, the less your dough is gonna break on each fold, And that's because the tension that we're creating, and also because ingredients are getting well mixed down. So you probably have to do this for maybe a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes. The second part, which I'm gonna show you right now, is like pretending you have a V on your counter. You're gonna roll your dough into a ball, and going with opposite hands, you are gonna make your dough smooth. Okay, so you can see I go to the sides, and again you want to do this for another 3 to 5 minutes. See how my dough starts to smoothen out, and I'll go back and do a little more of like stretch, fold, and turn. And you do this to make sure that everything is integrated. There are no lumps of flour or butter or egg. You can see, if you get close enough, you will see the lemon zest, which is totally fine. It gives a great smell and scent to our dough. If you would prefer, you can use orange zest, that's totally fine. You can change them as much as you want. If you don't have a zester at home, one thing that you can do is use a grater. Don't use the tiny small one, use one up. That way you are able to take it out, because with the smallest one it's very hard to get the zest out. So it's very important that you use the second one, smallest. And you can see how the more I do this, the softer my dough gets. I'm pinching a little bit with my thumbs. That way I also help with the mixing. But see, it's getting super smooth, okay? We'll continue a little bit more. And once you feel like your dough, it's soft, it feels nice to the touch, it's all smooth, we want to make sure that we have this seam facing down. So what I like to do is, like, you create kind of a taco, right? You fold it on its own, and using the side of your palms, you're gonna knead it down to the sides. See how, like, I'm rolling it to make sure I close it, because we want to make sure that we trap the air, and this air is gonna help our dough rise. Okay, so it's smooth, it's close at the bottom, it's ready to rest. Two things that you can do. One is you can use the same bowl and let it rise here. So I'm gonna put my dough inside the bowl, and I'm going to cover it with plastic film. And we're gonna let it rest for 2 hours. This is if you're gonna you're gonna make your donuts right now, like all the way today you're working on your donuts. If you prefer, what you can do as a second option is you make the dough at night. When you get to this point, you let it rest for an hour outside at room temperature, and you'll put it in the refrigerator overnight. So the next morning you'll join us in the next step. Like I said, you have two different options. You can prepare your dough ahead and let it rest in the refrigerator overnight, or for 2 hours on the counter, it's more than enough. So I'm gonna let mine rise, and I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, so 2 hours went by. You can see how my dough has bruised. We're gonna remove it from the bowl and into the counter. I usually get a feel first, and I'm feeling it's not sticky, so I'm not gonna add any flour to the counter. I have a dough scraper, which is great. There's the curved side for the bowl, and the flat side we use it on the counter. There we go. We have our dough, and you can see that as you press it down, it deflates a little bit, which is totally fine. So we're gonna roll the dough. We wanna get like 1/2 inch thickness around. I'd rather have wider donuts than thicker. also because of cooking in the oil and biting into it. So for me, this is a nice size. No donuts of canyons. So there we go. I have my round cutter. If you don't have a round cutter, you can use any glass cup or plastic cup that you have at home. And what you wanna do is you wanna cut them pretty close to each other. So that way you don't waste so much, even though you can re-roll it. This way you just get them all at once. If you feel like your dough is getting thick, a little of flour, but not much, will help. Let's talk about my rolling pin in case you're wondering. Yes, it's a PVC pipe. It's great at Home Depot. They sell them a little bit longer, but they can cut them for you if you want. To use them with the kiddos at home, they're great. And to use them for yourself too, I would suggest them. They're easy to clean, they are light, and they roll perfectly, and they're way cheaper than those expensive rolling pins. So there we go. You should get a full dozen out of it. You remove the excess. And I have prepared a pan with the parchment paper. You can roll the excess with the butter if you want. There we go. So I'm gonna put them on the parchment paper, that way they're not gonna get stuck to the tray. And you wanna make sure that you leave enough space that when they proof, they're not gonna touch each other. So we have 9 and 10, and from the scrapes, you just knead them quickly. Get the rolling pin. These last donuts that you are doing from scrapes, they might open up a little bit while they proof, and that's because of how we bind them together. But they're still edible and they're great, so there's nothing to worry about. And of course you can keep going and going and going and cutting more until you have used it all. See, these ones came out a little bit thicker than the other ones, but that's fine. I have my full dozen there. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna cover my pan. By all means, you can cover your pan with a cloth or you can cover with plastic film. I prefer the plastic film. So you can do, I first open it, I press it down, I do 1/2 of the tray, and then move to the side, pull again, and do the other part. Okay, at this point, you're gonna want to let your dough rest for another hour while you prepare your heavy pot with oil. I like to use grapeseed oil. It's a light oil that doesn't add much flavor when you fry it. So I would suggest using grapeseed oil. You can find it at any grocery store. If not, you can use any vegetable oil of your choice at home. So I have mine prepared right here. It has 2 inches of oil, and it's not on yet. When in, let's say in an hour, you're gonna wanna fry them. So 45 minutes from now, you'll get your oil going. If you have a thermometer, I would suggest you use that to check the temperature. But if not, it's like when you are frying anything else, you wanna save these extra pieces of dough and just put a little bit when you think it's ready. And if it's sizzling, by all means go ahead. You might have to play a little bit with the temperature, and that's because when you add, the heat goes down, so you wanna increase the heat. The temperature goes down, so you wanna increase the heat. And the opposite, when you take them out, I would say lower the heat, so the temperature doesn't go very up high and burns your next batch. You can use these crepes, as I said, you can keep making either munchkins or other sufganiyot. For me, just this toast and it's perfect. Thank you. We'll see you in an hour to fry them together. Okay, we're gonna fry them 5 of them at the same time for 3 minutes. Okay, so you wanna hold them and you wanna put them very gently. You don't wanna drop them, so the oil will not sprinkle on you. You can hear the sizzling. So it's gonna be 2 to 3 minutes on each side. You don't want them a dark brown. You want a very soft, light brown. So I have 4 and 5 right there. I like to use tongs. I spread them around so the heat doesn't concentrate. And I count on my kitchen clock 2 to 3 minutes, okay? You also regulate your heat. As you put stuff in, you might want to increase your heat. If you see that they're getting brown too dark too soon, you want to lower the heat. So I had lowered my heat and I see they're getting a nice golden color. And I will take them. I have prepared a pan with a drying towel, a paper towel, to dry the excess of oil. And once they have cooled down, you can inject them with jelly or jam or Nutella, dulce de leche, whatever is your choice. Okay. So they're starting to get golden. I'm gonna flip them. I just flip them, and I'm gonna count another 2 minutes, and I'm gonna take them out. Okay. That thin line that sometimes we see on the donuts, it's from the flipping, and you are gonna see them in yours too. Remember, if you don't have a cutter, you can use a glass, a coffee mug, of your favorite choice. And you keep going. You will repeat this in batches of 4 or 5, depends on the size of the pot. You wanna use a heavy pot so the oil doesn't heat up very quick. And remember, you wanna spread them around as they get together. Okay. You can sprinkle them with powdered sugar or roll them in regular sugar. That's your choice. But you definitely wanna fill them. Okay. So we'll give them just a quick extra minute, and I'll show you how fresh they are. If you have chopsticks, that's also something that you can use. And here comes my first batch. I'm gonna lower the heat so I can show you around. See? That's the line I was telling you. That's from flipping. It's totally fine. We're gonna let them cool down, and we'll keep going as we keep repeating the process until we are all done. Okay, so I wanna cut one and show you how they should look on the inside. So using a serrated knife is the best way to cut bread or donuts. And you can see right there that they are cooked and yummy and spongy. Okay, so this is just to show you. Our next step is filling the donut. So I'm gonna grab a donut, and the first thing that you wanna do is you wanna poke a hole with a knife, right? If you don't have piping bags at home, that's totally fine. You can use a syringe, or you can just make a bigger hole and fill them up. So I'm gonna stick my piping tip inside, and I'm gonna fill it. And you're gonna see that it's gonna push you out. You wanna have a plate ready, which I have my cutting board here, and you can start putting them one next to each other as you fill them. So we'll make another hole, and you can go a little bit deep on the hole, so that's gonna help the filling get all the way in. Again, I like to hold my piping tip to make sure that it goes in, and see, it pushes me out. We have the donuts. It's always good to have a little bit of the filling coming out, so your guests and your family will know what kind of donuts they are. Okay, I'm gonna go with another one. I grab my knife, poke the hole. And remember, you can fill them with Nutella, dulce de leche. Raspberry jam will be like the traditional one, but if your family doesn't like it, by all means, that's totally fine. And I like to sprinkle some powdered sugar on top, okay? So I have my powdered sugar right here. And I use a sifter. If you have a bigger one at home, that's totally fine. There we go. And you have your homemade sufganiyot ready to enjoy. Chag Sameach!